force in the United States?
So I think rather than having a panic reaction to him, I would say that it's important to understand the background. President Trump this time had very clear positions as a candidate. And there are 3 or 4 issues. If we look at them, all of this falls in line to an extent. One, of course, is the domestic and economy, and in that cost of living, wasteful international engagements. Now, this is what his perception is. And we have to take it as he went to the people. Energy is in another exercise, imbalance of trade, and then, of course, trimming the government. And what you raised about crime, law and order, immigration, and deportations, these are all connected. And he got elected on that mandate. So, therefore, we have a president of the United States who has been elected on a certain mandate with a number of states which have backed him, including the 7 swing states. And therefore, it's important to deal with him.
Sure.
I think the India relationship is a much deeper and a wider relationship and should also be seen in that perspective.
Ambassador, how will Trump's America First trade policies affect India's export-driven economy?
So I think, Vishnu, our economy and our relationship with the United States is also multifaceted. What he has been talking about, again, I'm only trying to explain, he's talking about imbalance. And India has about 40 billion there. You are aware that the Commerce and Industry Minister is right there. In fact, the meeting, the joint statement, talks of a trade deal between the two. And he has gone there to discuss that. So a part of that has to do with this imbalance. And I think it's going to be an overall give and take, which he has often spoken about with other countries too.
So what role will India play in Trump's strategy to counter China?
So I think that's a very important aspect to keep in mind. And there are 4 aspects of China in the United States which we must keep in mind. First, of course, is the business angle, which everybody now talks about. There are several important businessmen in the United States who feel that U.S.-China economic relationship should open up. So that's one kind of pressure. But there is also the strategic aspect. And there are a number of people in the Trump administration who have clear positions on China. So that's also going to be, now Secretary of State and NSA are part of that. The third part is domestic politics in the United States. Now, China is an important factor, and Trump is responsive to the local domestic situation. So that's another one angle. And finally, if I may say that there is a personal angle here, don't forget. In 2020, President Trump believes that he lost because of COVID. And often he calls it a Chinese virus. And I think if you look at the CIA director and a lot of other statements which have come out, that's also. So it's going to be an interplay of all this. And I think the strategic part is going to be significant. And therefore, India's role, look, India is also having its own discussions with China. So it is going to be a complicated game, but I think where challenges come, opportunities do arise there too.
Ambassador, how will Trump's approach to climate change potentially impact our own energy goals and climate goals?
So there is definitely a clear position, a relatively clear position on climate change as we look at green technologies, etc., of President Trump during the campaign and subsequently too. But as far as India is concerned, look, we have huge energy requirements. And in our energy basket, a number of things come in. One, of course, oil is an important part. LNG is an important part, which has been accepted as a transition fuel. Then solar is an important part. And now, what are called small modular reactors, nuclear energy is also going to be an important part. And that is part of the clean energy. So therefore, I would say that U.S. India partnership in energy is only going to deepen. And if we go to Trump 1.0, in fact, LNG export to India started during that time. So I would take a bigger picture there.
Would Donald Trump's unpredictable nature and his unpredictable diplomacy, I mean, he seems to have pulled the rug from underneath the feet of Europe of late. But that unpredictability in his temperament and the way that he goes about his policy, could that strengthen or potentially strain America-India bilateral ties?
I would only say, Vishnu, that India is pretty apt at playing what you are actually talking about, unpredictability. I think EM has called it a kind of multipolarity. So Indian diplomacy is pretty apt at working on that. I think for example, let's take Ukraine, Russia. What has been India's position in it? Prime Minister Modi has several times said that this is not an era of war. In a different way, Trump is also saying the same thing. I mean, a similar thing. Look, no two positions can be same. So I think India would find a lot of opportunity in this situation too. And I think to say that is Trump completely moving away from Europe, I don't know if that's really the entire truth, because it's still too early. We need to view it, but certainly he has advocated no war on Ukraine-Russia front, and he's trying to implement that. And I think India's position overall has been broadly on the same lines, if not absolutely similar.
Ambassador, skeptics of our relationship going forward with the United States would actually point to the Ukraine situation and say that all of a sudden America has cut off military aid, they've cut off